Welcome to another episode of 50 Shades of Shilamida. Can you guys believe that we are in the month of March already? March is a very special month in my household. It is birthday month. Two of my sons were born in March, and so is my husband. So this month is all about celebrating and enjoying life and just being with the people that we love. And so, in the spirit of March and birthing two children and having birthday month, I thought that this would be a good time to share in my birthing story. So, just want to start the show off by letting you know that this is a big trigger warning. I share this story because I think that it's important for people to know and understand what we women go through. And I also think that it's important if anybody who is listening and knows somebody who is pregnant right now or looking to get pregnant, I think it's important to share these stories so that we can try to stop them from happening to other people. So pregnancies have never been my favorite thing to do. I have 3 children, for those of you that are new to my world, and I have never been a good pregnant woman. All 3 of my pregnancies ended up in a C-section. With baby number 2, I tried to VBAC him, but I stupidly or not stupidly decided to take castor oil before he was born because I was that miserable and just needed to get him out. And it sent me into labor, which was what I was trying to accomplish. But what I didn't know is by taking castor oil, it actually increases the baby's heart rate, which put me into an emergency situation right when I got to the hospital. And it was kind of scary. And because I didn't know enough, I didn't know to just work through it. And so I ended up in a C-section for that birth as well. And so with baby number 3, I decided to just schedule a C-section and just do it the easy way, easy, quote unquote, because there's nothing easy about a C-section. Living in the United States and knowing how other countries and other cultures treat pregnant women and new mothers, and knowing the way that we do it here, it really is twisted if you think about it. I mean, a woman carries a child, grows a child, nurtures a child in her body for 40 weeks, more or less. And then she goes through this traumatic experience of giving birth, whether it's a natural birth or a C-section. Either way, it's traumatic. And then you're sent home within 24 to 72 hours with this new life, which most people don't even know what to do with this new life. And you are like expected to just be, right? I mean, I guess if we lived in the wilderness and we were animals, which I guess we kind of are animals, but if we lived in the wilderness, we would just have to kind of figure it out. So I guess that's what our society decides that we should do. But with baby number 3, I decided to have a scheduled C-section. Towards the end of my pregnancy, I did something that in hindsight was not very smart. I decided to switch gynecologists because I thought that maybe I can find a gynecologist that would help me to reduce the size of my stomach at the same time of my C-section. And so the gynecologist that I chose, it was known that he did mini tummy tucks, and if he didn't do it, that he worked with a plastic surgeon. And the vanity vein side of me was like, well, if I'm getting cut open, I might as well have this procedure done at the same time. Unfortunately, my insurance was not going to cover a tummy tuck, but I still decided to switch to this doctor at the end just because it seemed like the right thing to do in the time being. And so leading up to my C-section, one of the things that the doctor talked about a lot is a playlist. He was really into like music, and he was like, this is going to be such a great experience. I'm going to play whatever music you want to hear. We're going to have like this great time. And so on birthing day, March 8th of 2015, we went to the hospital. It was a pretty tumultuous morning for us. I was not in a good place emotionally, and it was like hard to begin with. And we showed up to the hospital, and the anesthesiologist showed up to my room, and I just had this wave of a bad feeling come over me. And I remember turning to my husband at the time and saying to him, like, there's just something off about this guy. I don't like this whole situation. But, we're going back 8 years, and I didn't know what to do in the moment. Like, you go to a hospital, you're scheduled for a procedure, you don't really get to choose like who is there with you, right? And so being who I am now, I think I would have advocated for myself a little bit better. But in that moment, I didn't advocate. But my husband also did not have the best feeling about this anesthesiologist. And so they took me into the surgery room, and I've done this a couple of times before, so I kind of knew what to expect. As soon as he put the epidural in for the C-section, only one leg went numb. So I knew that something was wrong. And so I tried to voice this to everybody that was in the room, and it just kind of was ignored. And they were like, no, it's okay. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, something is wrong. And so the procedure started, and I was cut open, and I felt every single thing that was happening. And so I was in a panic. My husband was in a panic. We didn't know what to do. I was screaming in pain because I felt everything that was happening. And so the anesthesiologist came over, and he said, I'm going to give you morphine. It's going to make you tired. And next thing I know, I was in a matrix in my mind. It was the scariest, craziest experience ever. I am a child of partying and fun. I know exactly what it's like to be on drugs and to be in holes. And so that's what I felt like I was in. And I recall turning to my husband at some point and saying to him, do we know each other? And he said, quite intimately, in fact. And then I remember the music changing and me freaking out because the music changed. And then I remember them putting a baby on me and me looking at the baby and saying, who is this baby? So here is supposed to be the most beautiful experience of my lifetime, we think. And it turns into one of the most horrific, scariest experiences of my life, because that anesthesiologist decided not to give me morphine. He decided to give me ketamine. And so back in the day when I was a club kid, I used to snort ketamine with ecstasy. And if the music wasn't right, you would go into something called a K-hole. And so that's exactly what happened to me during the birth of my child. And so the mistake that was made that day, because apparently ketamine is something that they now use in the hospitals on a regular basis, the mistake that was made was I was supposed to get an anti-hallucinogenic, but I did not. And so I don't know if my guy missed that day in school or if he was too busy on his cell phone, because the photos that I have of after birth, he is in the background on his phone. And after the baby was born, I went into a hole. Bennett was born at around 9:52 a.m.-ish, and I did not see time until almost 1 p.m. And when I woke up and came to, my husband was sitting in the corner of the room with the baby skin to skin. And I'm so very grateful that we had this beautiful birthing plan in place. And he was instructed that if anything was to happen to me, to not let that baby out of his sight, because we had already decided that we were not vaccinating Bennett. My second child, Brady, was vaccine injured. And so we were very adamant about Bennett not receiving anything in the hospital. And I've heard many horror stories that once you let the baby go, you just don't know what the nurses are doing. And so Ben and Bennett sat in the corner for 3 hours. I smile as I say it because Bennett is pure love. And I feel that he is pure love because of the love that he received in those first hours that he was born, because any other newborn would need milk to eat, a bottle, and had Ben let him go, that's exactly what would have happened. But Bennett just laid there and he waited until I woke up and I was ready to do the mom thing. And unfortunately, I wasn't ready to do the mom thing for a while because that experience sent me into postpartum depression really bad. And this was baby number 3 for me. So with my first, I always say that I had prepartum depression. When I got pregnant with Mikey, it was an unexpected pregnancy, and my dad had just passed away. I was already depressed. And so during my whole pregnancy, I was super depressed. And once he came earthbound, I was like wowed by him. And so I didn't have postpartum with him, but I feel like I had it while I was pregnant with him. And with Brady, number 2, I didn't have postpartum, but I also had a baby that was vaccine injured and I had no idea. And so I just thought something was wrong with him. I thought something was wrong with me. I just like didn't even know. And then 6 months later, I got pregnant with Bennett. And so the whole birthing experience, becoming a mom situation was so difficult for me. It took about 3 months for me to really grasp my bearings. Luckily for me, I had a lot of women that were around me. I was a practicing acupuncturist when I decided to go on maternity leave. My office was actually in my house. So I had a covering acupuncturist who was one of my BFFs. So she was at my house multiple days a week, taking care of patients and taking care of me and the baby in between. I had a nanny who was terrific and really gave me love and attention. And it was really hard for me. I would lay in my bed and I would cry. And I remember my mom coming to me and she would be like, "Why are you crying?" And I'm like, "I just don't know." And it was unexplainable. You know, you go into this birthing experience as a woman and you think that it's going to be like this most magical and majestic experience of your life. And, you know, I say it with a giggle because I don't know a lot of women that could tell you that it was magical and majestic, although I do know some. And when I see their stories, I get triggered a little bit by their stories because my experience was not the same, not with any one of my children. And I think part of the problem is that we are not empowered as women. We are told that the babies are too big and we're not going to be able to birth them. We're told that if we don't get the babies out on time, that something wrong is going to happen. We're told all of these things, but these things are not true. Because if we go back to thinking that we are animals in the wild, they don't have C-sections, they don't have doctors, they don't have drugs, they give birth the way that a woman's body is meant to give birth. And that is what we forget to remember, is that we are these incredible beings of life. And we have these powers above and beyond what we even realize that we have. And medicine and pharma and the whole medical world has taken this experience and they have changed it into something that it's not supposed to be. And then we have the aftermath of that, right? There are many women who have had the same experience that I have had, because I've told this story year after year. Bennett is 8, and I've told this story and I've had many women reach out to me. And this is why I continue to tell the story, because it's important for us as women to share our experiences, to try to help somebody else from not having the experiences. I definitely regretted for baby number 3 not having a doula. I had a doula with number 2. Because we ended up in the C-section, I figured that I just didn't need her. But going through a C-section with doula number 2, it was a very different experience having her there, because you have somebody who's calm, cool, and collective within a moment of extreme terror and fear that can happen when you are not prepared, right? Especially for a first-time parent. And so we need to share so that others maybe don't go through the same experience. So the thing that I would love to share with new moms is, if you're going in for a C-section, make sure that you speak to your anesthesiologist, that you know the meds that they're going to give to you and what kind of reactions you can have from them. For those of you that are trying to experience a natural birth, hire a doula. It's the best money you can spend. They will be there for you, to advocate for you, to, you know, take you to the end the way that you want to go. For those of you that did not have a natural birth, you are very much a woman. There is nothing wrong with you. You did not do anything wrong, and it doesn't make you less than because you did not vaginally deliver. I know that a lot of women struggle with that. I've never struggled with that. I've struggled with being a mom. I've struggled with pregnancy, but I never struggled with womanhood. My body did exactly what it needed to do. And my experience was exactly what it needed to be so that I can tell these stories and hopefully save somebody else from going through the same experience. And so, in honor of my littlest one, I wanted to share with you my birthing experience. And something that really helped me with postpartum was marijuana. And so when I first decided to use marijuana to help me out of postpartum, I was afraid that it might make me paranoid and I may have had a negative reaction. I posted in one of the crunchy groups that I'm in, and I had somebody tell me to eat it instead of smoke it. And so I had this random stranger show up to my house to help me create like a butter that we then use to bake with. And what the marijuana did for me is it helped me to go to another realm. I started focusing my attention on creation. I created a business in that time, and I was able to change the energy of where I was to where I wanted it to be. And some women are not that lucky. Some women suffer for a really long time. So that's why I wanted to share this with you, because this is not conventional. It's not traditional, but it's what I did for myself and it really helped. So I wanted to offer that to you because I feel that the more that we talk, the more that we share, the more that we understand that things that society may think is wrong or not right or not proper or whatever you want to connotize it as, it's not really that. And we have to do what we feel is right for us. And in that moment, I felt that it was right for me. And it truly was right for me, because not only did it help me come out of the postpartum depression, it also helped me to help others, because the business that I had created was a service business that was able to help others along the way. So I thank you for joining me for another episode of 50 Shades of Shilamida. If this is your first time catching me, my name is Shilamida. I am a spiritual leader. I am a best-selling personal development author. You can find my books on my website, shilamida.com. It's SHILAMIDA. You can also find me on Amazon. I am on all the social media outlets. Our favorite is Facebook and Instagram. You can find me at 50 Shades of Shilamida, also as the Goddess of Gratitude. If you are listening to this show, you can also watch the show on YouTube. If you are watching the show on YouTube, please go check out my other social media channels. I also love Pinterest. I happen to be the Pinterest queen. I love creating experiences and events for women. You can check out all of my events on my website. Follow me on socials. I love to hear your comments and feedbacks and thoughts on my shows and anything else you might want me to talk about. This month is all about awakening, and awakening not only spiritually, but awakening to food, awakening to medicine, awakening to pharma, awakening to weight loss. There's so many awakenings that we have throughout our life. People think that awakenings are just like the spiritual experience, which they are, but there's many awakenings that we go through in our life. So the guests that I have on the show this month are incredible. Please go back and binge my old shows and make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss any more. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to share my wisdom and to help our whole society rise. I love you. Bye.